Hey everybody, what is going on? This is James, and in this quick video, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about should you pick a Shopify dropshipping niche, or should you just kind of not go with a niche and kind of go ahead and kind of just find products and test them as they are, not really looking for anything specifically, but looking for something that you think could sell pretty well and that has some proof behind it. So, kind of a spoiler, I don't really look for a Shopify niche. And I'm going to kind of explain why I personally don't. I know a lot of people teaching Shopify, especially like Justin Senior. He's really big on finding a niche, and that's kind of because he's more into print on demand and stuff, but I'm more into dropshipping. And it doesn't really matter what niche you're in as far as dropshipping goes now. There is a couple good reasons to get into a niche, and there are, a couple negative reasons. But I really want to touch on both of them and give you enough information to kind of make a decision for yourself if you want to go ahead and just pick a niche, or if you kind of want to just go ahead and do what I do and just kind of test products that not are random, but just things that you think could sell, and kind of finding the niche and the niches that you can advertise to afterwards. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So let's just start off with some of the pros of looking for a Shopify niche and actually going into AliExpress, or just even brainstorming ideas of a niche like cats, dogs, construction workers, truck drivers. That would be a good example of print on demand niches. But for dropshipping niches, you'd start a cat store and dropship products. You could start a dog store and dropship products. You can get as creative as you want, and really you have to test out and see if there's a market for what your niche is, and you have to go look if there's other stores and do the market research yourself. But so one of the big pros of actually going out and finding a niche and picking a niche is you know exactly who your target audience is going to be. So that's really important. Obviously, people always talk about in business, you have to know who your target audience is, and I don't think it's as important as a lot of people make out to be, because just in the beginning, it's okay to not know exactly who you want to target and to kind of test broadly. But you know exactly who you're marketing to. If you're marketing a cat product on a cat store, then your target market is going to be cat lovers. Now, I don't necessarily get as granular as my target demographic is single women who own cats and live in an apartment and are 25 to 30 years old, and they make like 60,000 a year. I don't get that granular. I just kind of go like the most narrowed down I'd probably go is like 25-year-old women, or 25 to 30-year-old women, maybe single women too if they're converting better. But that's kind of another pro of actually picking a niche, is you can figure out exactly who your customer is, and that's really important, especially in business and everything. And we're going to kind of talk about what I do later on for picking Shopify products and everything. But just know that one of the good things about actually picking a niche is that you know exactly who your target audience is and who you're marketing to. So that's one big pro of actually going ahead and diving in and picking a niche. Now, another kind of pro here is that you're actually building an asset for yourself, and the store that you build is going to be an asset, because unlike a kind of a general store, and really what this comes down to is the whole general store versus like niche store debate, and that's kind of what we're arguing here. But really with a niche store, you're building an asset that you can actually go ahead and sell, and that you can actually remarket to. See, the big problem with general stores is that they're so broad that you're attracting a bunch of different niches and a bunch of different people, and you're kind of seeing what works, and that's good. That's good to test out, especially, and you can actually just make money like that. But really, kind of taking it to the next level is actually building out a store where it's a similar group of people. It's kind of like Walmart versus like Petco. You know what I mean? Everybody at Petco is obviously going to have pets. Walmart can have pet stuff, but they really have a bit of everything. And Walmart can't specifically just email market and retarget people with pet store ads, because they're not just a pet store. They sell food, and they sell clothes and electronics and everything else. So that's kind of one of the differences there. And really, this is important for email marketing and for actually, building out a funnel and getting people on your email list, because you can actually go ahead and remarket to these people and really speak more directly to them. Like with a general store, you can't really speak specifically to anybody because you're just kind of all over the place. Like Walmart can't really specifically speak to people. And if you have like a cat store, you could specifically target cat owners and speak to them. Again, another thing is you kind of know your audience better and you know what offers to give them, right? And it's just a lot easier to collect data like that because you're actually building an asset where it's a community of people who are all interested in the same thing. So it's a lot easier to market to them and everything. So that is another pro of actually starting a niche store. I'm putting down, you can become really influential in your niche. You can become an authority in your niche, basically, is what I'm kind of trying to say there. You can really become an authority in your niche. Now, I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, but I know that this is obviously the case because this is just what happens. Once you kind of build rapport with your customers, and once you kind of get a lot of customers and get a lot of sales, you start to become a powerhouse in your niche. You start to become influential. You can start a YouTube channel, you can start an Instagram channel, and you can really have a big influence on what actually goes on in your niche. And you can kind of change and figure out the direction of where your niche is actually going to go. Now, if you built a cat store, again, I'm just going to use a cat example, but if you build a cat store, you could kind of manipulate the market, so to speak. You can actually kind of influence the people in the niche to buy a new product or to buy the new product that you sell. Once you start moving on to like custom products and everything, you could actually really kind of manipulate the niche and kind of move things forward that way. And that's just one really cool thing. It's kind of like with what GoPro did. They obviously sell action cameras to people who are into extreme sports and everything, and they are a huge powerhouse in that action camera niche. Now there are other action cameras and everything, but they're just a very, very reputable source to actually go ahead and buy action cameras for, and they can actually influence the niche. Like they can have events, they can sponsor things. It's kind of like Red Bull also, like where they actually have a huge influence in like the action extreme sports niche. And they can go ahead and create events and create things around that, and they can really, really build like a huge, like I don't even know what to say. They can just build something that's really, really big and kind of transcends just a dropshipping store, right? So that's kind of some of the cool pros for making a niche store. Now I kind of want to talk about the cons. So one of the first cons to building a niche store is that you're very limited. You're very limited to, obviously who you can market to and who you can sell to and everything. Now, again, that can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing, and I'm aware of that. So that's why I'm putting that in there, because you're very limited to who you can actually market and sell things to. If you have a cat store, you're not really going to be able to sell to dog owners because most people who are cat owners aren't going to own a dog. Most people who own a dog aren't going to own a cat, and they're not really going to trust a cat store to go buy dog stuff from, right? So really, you have to kind of look at it like that. You're very limited as to what you can actually sell in a niche store like that. So that's just one of the first cons here. Another one is that, now I'm just going to put you might fail, and obviously this is the same thing with like a general store as well, but I'm going to explain this here right now. You might fail, and the whole kind of idea behind like a general store is not being limited to a niche, especially when you're a beginner, because you don't really know what's going to sell and you don't really know what's going to work yet. So if you start a cat store and you go ahead and fail, and I've started stores like this that were just niche specific stores, and they didn't really get anywhere. I didn't sell anything, I didn't make enough money, and I had to close the store down. And it can get pretty tiring, and it can really hit your confidence when you have to keep shutting down Shopify stores and you're not making any progress. That's why I like to do a general store, especially when you're starting out, because you can test so many different things. You're not limited to one niche. So your store might fail, and it might not get any sales, and you might not actually be successful with that store. And again, that shouldn't deter you, but it can get very discouraging when you're just kind of put all this effort into building a really, really nice looking store, and then nobody buys anything, or you find out that the niche that you're in, that nobody really wants to buy anything. Like, I just saw this one post on this group. I think it was Justin Senior's group, and this lady was talking about how she put all this effort into making the store. It was like a wine themed store, and like a kind of a humor based store, and nobody was buying her shirts. And you know, it was very discouraging to her, because she put a lot of time into that store, and to make those designs and to do all that, it takes a lot of hard work, and it can get really discouraging. She made like a really discouraging post. She was frustrated in the group. And you know, people obviously helped her out, but it can be really discouraging to be failing, especially as a beginner. You might be like, oh, this doesn't work, and you might actually quit. So that's a big con, and that's big enough, in my opinion, to make me want to start a general store. I still run general stores. I've had niche stores in the past, but the biggest successes I've ever had in Shopify were on a general store. So just keep that in mind, guys. So this is, again, when you're going to do a niche specific store, it's going to be a lot more time consuming, because you actually have to figure out your market. You have to figure out the people and what kind of triggers them to buy stuff. Now, again, you have to really do this with any product, but it's a lot more time consuming, because you have to go into your niche, and you have to look at other stores, and you have to figure out really what's working for other stores and all that. And obviously, you have to do this still with a general store. But with a niche store, it's going to be a lot more time consuming, because there's just so much more research and everything, whether it's product research, whether it's, you know, niche research. There's just a lot more work that goes into actually finding out about your niche, and finding out what's going to work and what's going to sell and everything. So really, that's a big con too, is that it can be very time consuming, and again, that can be very discouraging to somebody who's just starting out. So guys, that's pretty much 3 pros and 3 cons for actually starting a niche Shopify store. Again, I start all my stores, that most of the stores that I've ever run are general stores, so I can test a lot of stuff out. I've really only had like 2 or 3 general stores, because they're general, so you don't really have to keep making new ones, but sometimes it's nice to just start over. So really, again, guys, I told you I was going to talk about a little bit. I'm just going to touch on what I do. Like I said, I kind of just go with the flow. I don't necessarily pick a niche. I don't go out there and just pick one thing. I name my store very generally, so that I can sell a variety of things, from like makeup to like kitchen gadgets to, you know, whatever. It's almost like Walmart, but not quite, where you can just be able to have that freedom to test a lot of different stuff. So what I do is I basically do the product research. Some people will pick the niche and then do the product research. I do the product research, and then I figure out, you know, where I'm going to go with it, and what niche I can market my products to on Facebook. And that's really what I do, and that's probably the best advice I can give you out of this video, especially as a beginner, is you don't know what you're going to be doing. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what niche you really want to get into. You don't know if your niche is going to be profitable. So look at what other people are selling and kind of model that on a general store. That's really the best advice that I can give you guys. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for the video. That kind of wraps it up. If you like more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.